Reddit ask me anything. I'm a trans woman who regrets she had bottom surgery. Ask me anything. I am a trans woman. 5 years post-op. I regret bottom surgery. Ask me any questions but keep your tone polite please. Why do you regret it? The fact that it still doesn't feel real. The fact that this surgery didn't truly give me female genitalia. I rather have the feeling that I have a refashioned penis between my legs. I still think about myself as a man who wants to be a woman. I still think about myself as a man who wants to be a woman. Can you help me better understand this? Prior to the operation, did you feel like a woman or did you want to be a woman? Have you now realized that it was a fantasy best left unfulfilled, or is it just not what you expected it to be? Prior to my surgery I wanted to be a woman. Post-surgery I still want to be a woman. But I feel like changing sexes was an upsold illusion. I feel like I have a male body that was remodeled to look like a woman's. But I still don't regard myself as a real woman despite wanting to be. Do you think it's unrealistic to feel like a real anything? I mean, they're just names we gave stuff. And quite honestly I don't even know what the terms mean outside of functionality required to make children. Sometimes I feel like we get so obsessed with naming stuff that we forget to just be ourselves. Ironically, I think the term for that is gender non-conforming, which in one way or another we all are. Since no one can agree on what attributes constitute a specific gender, I feel like I can understand feeling like you're in the wrong body, not logically but as a physical sensation. The rest of it confuses the shit out of me. It's more of a physical sensation. You are right on that. The phantom pains of my body ever having been male and still being male while my gender identity is female is what eats at me. I feel like I'm a person in a refashioned male body that was modified to trick people into thinking it is a female body. Does that make sense? I have always and will always have the persistent desire of being a woman, but I feel like it was something that was impossible to achieve because the surgeries I got didn't change my sex makeup. Can you somewhat follow what I mean? The dysphoria continues even after all the surgeries. What do you mean it didn't give you truly female genitalia? Do you have sensation when you have sex masturbate? I have sensation, but it's still not a real vagina in my eyes. I have to bring in a plastic prosthetic every other day or my vagina starts closing up. I have less sensation than before. Things were cut and stitched up from top to bottom down there. I don't lubricate naturally. I don't have a self-cleaning vagina. It starts to smell if I don't use special pH neutral soaps down there at least twice a day. It's too narrow to accommodate a penis. I have bladder infections twice yearly. There are scars on the labia. I wish I had never gone through with it. I wish I would have sucked it up without surgery and just went on with my hormones. But surgery was a social expectation to be normal in the eyes of everyone else. I really appreciate your honesty in this reply. My being open about my experience can help any other person. It will have been fully worth it. Did no one explain these things would happen? Doctor or psychologist? Aren't there meetings and evaluations involved? There were meetings involved, but only the positive things were highlighted by my surgeon during our meetings. Probably because she is a trans woman who underwent gender reassignment surgery herself. I got a therapist letter for my bottom surgery and 3 sessions with a therapist who pushed me on the first appointment already towards bottom surgery. This is what I worry about for my trans woman best friend. I feel like she only gets encouraged etc in the trans community. Is there any way I can broach these negatives with her without seeming like a a-hole? I'd share with her Art's story. I'm fairly oblivious to what the trans community goes through after gender reassignment surgery, so this whole thing has been an eye-opener for me. Your friend might benefit from a more balanced view of the process. What did your doctor say? As far as I know, you need to use special medical tools every day to keep your new organ deep and wide for it to actually be functional vagina. This seems like a butchered job. Did you complain to him? My surgeon is a trans woman herself who performs bottom surgery on thousands of Americans every year. She is Dr. McGinn from Pennsylvania. I was instructed to dilate, stretch the vagina, which I still do every other day, and I clean my vagina twice a day with special products. My vagina was considered a successful result by my surgeon and on par with what the average post-op trans woman has. These surgeries are just not so advanced yet, sadly. I mean, it's not female genitalia, It's a rearranged penis with artistic flair, I imagine, and I'm curious to know whether this is accurate, that it's like having the head of the penis inside of a hole. Same sensations, etc. The elasticity of the region is also something that no one talks about. Female to male operations are probably more similarly functional. Edit. When rereading I can tell that what I wrote sounds insensitive, but I'm going to leave it. I meant it in a matter of fact and curious way. Sorry if it came off as inflammatory or insincere. It isn't as elastic as a cisgender vagina. It doesn't lubricate. It isn't self-cleaning and the bladder is more prone to infections. It feels like a flesh pocket that isn't connected to the rest of my body. In cis women the vagina is connected with the rest of their body. That's not the case for me. It's just a flesh pocket with sensation and the clitoris. But there is no sensation inside the vagina or vaginal walls. It's very different from a cisgender vagina actually, and I didn't expect that pre-surgery. It's a fairly recent medical realization that the clitoris is larger than just the head, with two arms sort of wrapping around the vagina and providing extra sensation through its walls. As a cis girl, I'm not entirely sure how a surgeon would recreate something like that. I kind of take the various functions of it for granted. You have my sympathy that what was sold to you didn't end up being what was advertised. It can feel like betrayal from the medical system from what others have told me. I'm sorry if this may sound a bit intrusive, but what is sex like post-op? Do you feel anything? Do you get wet? Is it enjoyable? Does it look like one? Clitoral stimulation feels good. Penetration feels numb. Like nothing. I don't get wet. I have to use KY gel all the time. It's super dry and I'm very prone to infections because of that. Does it look like a vagina? Well, it sits higher than a normal vagina. Let me tell you that. I have scars on the labia. It comes close to looking like a vagina, but if you have seen a lot of vaginas you can tell. And it's quite far from functioning like a normal vagina. What's the difference between gender and sex? Sex is your physical state that you were born with, your state of being male or female. Gender is the own feeling of belonging to a certain sex, believing that one is a man or a woman. This is really interesting. I suppose I should learn more definitions. Can I ask if how you see yourself when you are dreaming? I guess I wonder what your unconscious thinks. I'm a cis woman, but in my dreams I can be a man or a woman and I feel comfortable as both. In my dreams I'm a woman. My subconscious also never misgenders me. It's actually not my mind that feels like a problem. It's the limitations with regards to body transition and how those were not honestly divulged towards me. I only got to hear the positive aspects of body transition, not the negative aspects. So now I'm stuck with a woman's mind in a body that is still male but was rearranged to give the impression of being female. And that's what bothers me, that it was all an artificial construction. How disappointing for you. I'm sorry that it isn't what you were led to believe. Is sex an important part of your life? Is it fulfilling or is it just another disappointment? Sex is not really an important part of my life. I'm more love driven. Lustful sex was never my thing. I was more about, loving someone and having sex with them from a stance of love. I don't mourn that I have lost sexual sensation. It's just scary that nerves that I used to feel down there are now numb. That a part of your body feels like as if it's in a coma. That's scary. I'm also disappointed with the aesthetics and the overall functioning. The fact that it is something that will only come in the neighborhood from an actual vagina, at a large distance. The fact that I woke up from a pink cloud into a storm. How could the people around you best support you? Now, by not pushing me in a gendered direction. I am fatigued when it comes to gender. I want to live as me without gender. It's cost me enough life of my years already, sadly. Did you think something like this might happen before going into the surgery? Or did this seem out of the realm of possibilities at the start? I am also curious if you think this is something that is common or uncommon with people X amount of time after surgery? Honestly, the day I had surgery I was excited. I was over the moon. Regret kicks in when you realize that that which was possible didn't live up to what was promised and what was promoted. I wish other trans folks had been more open with me, But in the community you only heard humble bragging about how so and so has a body that has no traces from male puberty and that she went to X or Y surgeon. So if others want to be like so and so they also have to go to that surgeon. Regret kicks in when it is too late already. Sadly, I know other regretters. Yes, but many are scared to speak up. I have hesitated for a while before deciding to speak up. If you have had sex since the surgery, does it feel less pleasurable? That one is a difficult one to answer. Before my surgery I couldn't enjoy sex because there was a penis that didn't belong there for my feeling. I never penetrated someone. I was always the receiving party. After surgery, well, sex feels psychologically better because the penis is gone, but sex just doesn't interest me. It just feels like something boring and it feels more like a chore. I have had boyfriends both before and after surgery and it was more something that I put up with to satisfy his needs. I can only get off if I masturbate on my own. With a man it feels too stressy and rushed. I'm sorry for what you're going through with gender dysphoria, and thank you for being brave enough to share your feelings with others who cannot be as brave. Do you share any of these feelings with a doctor or therapist? If so, how do they work with you? If not, how has your support system been? I was always gender atypical, but the people in my environment never told me or showed me that it was okay to be effeminate as a male. It was seen as abnormal and thus I had to transition to be normal. And surprise, I sadly still don't feel normal. I still long to be a woman, but I know I can't change my biology, and that's what causes me tremendous pain day after day. I feel like I didn't become a woman. I feel like I became a man who looks like a woman. And that realization is very bitter after years of money, commitment and everything. My environment was very pushy. My therapists were very insisting on the surgery. My trans friends and LGBT support group. It was all painted in a too positive light. I wish someone had told me the truth. I felt decent on hormones, but that surgery was a terrible mistake, and it can never be undone. I'm not seeing therapists because they only want to refer patients to doctors to prescribe antidepressants when something doesn't go like they want. I have a few wonderful straight cis friends who support me. I'm trying to make a silk purse from a sew's ear. It sounds like you had bad therapists. Admittedly, there are far too few good ones. You are you. And assuredly there are great things about you that absolutely do not depend on labels. Therapy is probably still the right choice for you. But you need a therapist who is worthy of you, which is hard to find. Don't give up. I'm not in danger or anything, so I'm not too hasty on talking with a therapist. I'm not thinking about suicide or things like that. I just live with subtle regret, and I try to focus on friends and work to distract from that. What happened happened. I don't want to keep dwelling over this mistake I made. Do you feel like your identification as either male or female is shaped by the gender roles that are thrust upon us all? Or was it something completely different? I had the sense of being a girl since I was very young, probably 4 years old. I started transitioning at 26 after having tried to repress it for decades. I am now mid-30s, and as I start aging I feel a deep loss for all the years I put into something that feels almost like an unattainable fantasy. I feel like the surgery didn't truly change my sex. It just created an illusion that I changed sexes. And that's a feeling that I'm having a hard time dealing with. Because I want to be a woman, but I feel like an imposter for knowing that I have a past as something completely differently, and I feel like deceiving people by presenting female. It's so exhausting. I wish there was a world where gender didn't matter this much. What's your sexual orientation? I'm attracted to men, so I don't know what label applies to me. Depends how you gender me, I guess. How soon late do you tell a prospective romantic partner that you're trans? I have it in my biography on my dating profiles, because I don't want to risk violence or unpleasant surprises. The good thing is that I don't attract fetishist chasers anymore since I have a neo-vagina now, so I'm more willing to be open about me being trans now. What a terrible thing. The reason behind it, though, seems pretty obvious. You have a psychiatric condition that didn't go away because you had your dong cut off. There's no connection between the two things. I will never understand why some sections of our society have decided to treat this specific type of psychiatric condition differently than others. Instead of encouraging people like you to seek meaningful treatment, we've suddenly just decided that it's sensible to instead embrace and celebrate the condition. We've determined to embolden and empower a bunch of people that we should instead be helping. We don't tell people with eating disorders that they should embrace their illness. We don't tell people who suffer with delusions that their delusions are just as valid as reality. We treat them. We try to help them to be better. Why is this situation treated differently? Because there was no other treatment that was deemed effective for gender dysphoria in the eyes of psychiatric and health practitioners, I think. Sadly, the all or nothing mentality destroyed me. I felt better on hormones. That surgery was an unnecessary step that was pushed on me because it was part of the package. I know it sounds weird, but somewhere it brought me peace to accept that I am a male yearning to be a woman, instead of buying into biological mistake narratives any longer. Bro, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.